Welcome to our conversation series. We call it Escape Your Humdrum Life. And we talk on various topics, and today's topic is on positive aging. So before we go too far, let us introduce ourselves. Kit, why don't you start?
Okay, I'm Kit Cassingham. I'm a longevity coach with Live in Focused Energy. Because we already live longer, I coach clients to help them get the most out of their extra years with health, energy, and that sense of relevance that's important to life.
So obviously an expert on the topic we're talking today.
Well, I have an opinion, but.
And I'm Don Downs. I'm with RV Business Coach, and I work with people to help people in the prime of their lives create a completely location-independent entrepreneurial business so they can enjoy the freedom of travel and the prosperity that comes with being their own boss.
And since we have, at least at the moment, a small group, why don't we let them introduce themselves just real quick, what your name is and where you are.
My name is Chris, and I live in Washington State.
Gloria Cruzmeyer, Northfield, Minnesota.
I'm Corey. I'm in Central Ohio.
Start with talking a little bit about what do we think positive aging is? What do we think of when we refer to that? Kit, you want to kick us off?
Oh, sure. Positive aging, in my opinion, is your attitude about life. Now, I want to, because it's positive aging, it's a positive outlook. It's optimism. It's finding the sunshine on a rainy day. It's knowing that everything will work out no matter what it looks or feels like right now. It's saying, I want to live well every day, no matter how many days I have. That's what positive aging is to me, very quickly. How can you augment or change that, Don?
Well, when I think of positive aging, I think about what I've always said, which is I want to live until I stop living. So
you want to wake up dead someday, in other words?
Yeah, not have a long, prolonged decline, but to stay young, right up till the end. So I've also always joked a lot that, what's it, vibrant? Yeah.
Vibrant,
I've often joked age is a state of mind and body. So there's a lot of mental attitude that goes to it, and some physical things that affect us as well. But in general, positive aging, I think in terms of as we grow older, still being vibrant and trying new things and enjoying life.
I have a friend who takes walks daily with a buddy of his, and he says that they start the walks with their organ recitals. And they laugh about their aches and pains, and then they get on to other topics. They don't take themselves too seriously with their aging. So, guests, what is your perspective on what positive aging means? Or what does it mean to you? Or what do you think it means? Or what do you want to learn?
I would say just living while I'm still alive and doing the things that I want to do.
I heard the underline and emphasis on living.
Yeah.
Living. Yeah. Okay. Good. Corey, you want to chime in?
Yeah, I think what I'm curious to hear about is the living part, but also a lot of what I'm hearing so far is about maintaining a positive perspective on things, ensuring that you're looking at things the right way, because that leads to your actions. Thoughts lead to actions. So.
Well put. Okay. Gloria, what quick thoughts do you have?
Live as long as it's fun to live.
I like that.
I like that.
And I'll use that as a springboard and say, and we get to decide what makes life fun. How can we look at life so that it is fun regardless? I hear people say, oh, I'm just so old. My body aches and I can't do what I used to do. And at 55, I'm so old. And I look at them and bat my eyes like, 55 is old? Ooh. It doesn't occur to me that my aches and pains indicate a passing of age. To me, it says, honey, you're not using those body parts enough. You're not keeping the lubrication in the joints. You're not keeping the fibers of the muscles limber and strong. So go do something. So yesterday, in preparation for today, I restarted an exercise regime I have done for years. I found an old Wheaties box at my parents' house when I was helping them move, and it had a variety of isometric exercises on it. I kept the back of the Wheaties box. I threw the front away, but I kept the back. And I did those exercises almost daily until September. And then I joined a program that kind of threw me off schedule. I got back on yesterday because I was starting to feel the stiffness. And going, nope, that's not how I want to live. So I invite you guys to all join me on doing my routine.
I don't think I have that Wheaties box, but
But
you
see,
do
the
bring
cool-
up a good point.
But
What's
Don,
that?
I actually made my own graphic of it and augmented it. So if anybody wants that, I'll be glad to share. And it's now it was called 14 moves. Now it's 14 plus moves. I augmented it. Okay. So Don, you were going to
There you
say
go.
other things before I
Yeah, I think
interject.
one of the, when you talked about that, it brought up one of the things I think is important to positive aging is healthy routines like exercise. And, it can be kind of hard because we kind of have a culture of wanting an instant pill to cure everything and not wanting to invest. So, carving out that time for exercise can be a challenge, but it's really worth it in the long run, I think.
Well, and this little routine of mine takes 10 to 15 minutes, depending on, I have you do each position for a count of 6. So if you count really fast, it doesn't take long. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. No, it's not meant for that. But, so Don, part of a routine could be the way we move every day. So instead of just walking down the sidewalk, maybe you could balance walk on the curb, which gets a little body core exercise going on, and people think you're a kid, and that's always fun. And that, for me, that's part of my positive aging. What can I do to have fun? So
Yeah, that's a big one. Having fun, having a sense of humor, which is related to having fun.
yeah. I was going to do this same conversation in my clubhouse last week, and partly because my brain can't quite figure out where I am and what time it is. I missed my call. When you're hosting the call and you miss it, you're in trouble. So I apologized to my audience and said, we'll wait till I'm home. But anyway, I happen to have spoken to 3 seniors just before that call. It would have been my dad's 90, let me stop and think, 98th birthday on the 26th. So I was kind of getting ready to celebrate his birthday for him. So I called 2 of his childhood friends, and then had breakfast with a woman here at the hotel who referred to herself as old, but she's not quite 80. But anyway, you can see my perspective that 80 doesn't really count as old. Mid-90s. Now we're getting close to being old, getting close. But I asked each one of them, what is your secret to your longevity? Every one of them said, sense of humor. So Don, you just chimed in with all those old people.
That's interesting.
My mother has a sense of humor.
You don't have to have a sense of humor to be older. It just makes it a lot more fun. That's my belief. And we know lots of cranky people. In fact, when I used to inspect bed and breakfast for the state association, and I arrived at one inn, and the innkeeper was being really cranky. Somebody, it might have been me. In fact, it was me. I called her at 8:00 at night to confirm our appointment the next day. And she was very upset with me for calling so late at night. And she goes, I am 76 years old and I have deserved the right to be cranky. And I'm going, I don't know that anybody's deserved the right to be cranky. To me, that's the opposite of positive aging. And Gloria, from what your little comment was about your mom, she may have been in that self-entitlement of how she can behave when she's older. And yeah, we can all do what we want, but we're talking about positive aging. So
Yeah, we have a saying that we got from one of my wife's friend's mother. She says, we don't get older, we just get more so, which I find to be true in a lot of cases, right? Whatever you are as you get older, you tend to amplify that. So, that makes me think in terms of positive aging. If we look at our strengths and our weaknesses and we work at improving our strengths, maybe we'll be a little less more so on the negative side.
I like that. And in fact, the things my dad's two friends said, in addition to sense of humor, was that they stay engaged. One of them survived polio. She's in a wheelchair and has been for a long time. And when she's allowed to, she scooters around her complex and stays engaged with everybody. And I know before COVID, I never found her in her room. She was just always out. And George he has a ranch up in the mountains above Boulder, and he spends as much time as he can there. He's outdoors, he's engaged with nature and all the people who rent his cabin. So those are two ways of being engaged with nature and other people.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in nature anyway. Getting outside and being in nature, I find rejuvenating and spirit cleansing. And, I think those kinds of things play into our positive aging as well.
So when you're in nature, Don, do you look for the little surprises in life, or do you keep your awareness open so you see the little surprises that are there? Like a bird you've never seen, or? Yeah,
I do that. And also sometimes just kind of absorb the whole big picture of what's there, the cool breeze under the trees, or the mushrooms under the foliage or whatever. So yeah, it's just
being present.
Kind of depends on where I am and what I'm thinking. Yeah, but largely just staying present and looking at, soaking in as much as I can of where I am.
Okay, I think that's good. When I walked the Camino, Chris, I walked the Camino de Santiago. It's a pilgrimage across Spain. I found that my awarenesses were differently focused than my walking partners. One person saw all the little dogs, or all the dogs of any size. And so she had to go greet each and every one of them. And the other person he's a musician, and he would really pay attention to the bird sounds. I found several things I'd never ever seen before. One was, I called it an ant train. And it was head to tail line of ants parading along. Well, I've seen ants follow each other, but never head to tail. And then there was the snail trail, where it was snails that were head to toe, more slowly crawling along. And it just tickled me to pieces to see this, this experience of nature. And it lifted my mood. So I walked more positively. Community is another aspect of positive aging. It's an aspect of aging. And when you make it more positive, it's with being with people who nourish you. Don, what thought, if you're RVing, how can you create a supportive community? How can you be engaged?
That is one of the big challenges of RV full timing is, it sounds great, but you get out there and you discover you're all alone. And as a lot of us discovered during COVID, even us major introverts started like, oh, I kind of miss being around some people. So that is a challenge. And, you deal with it as best you can. Hopes camping is kind of a fun experience. And so when you're in an RV park, usually people are much more open to, they just instantly become friends because we're all doing the same thing. And, except for the guy that's playing his music at 1,000 dBs and drinking beer. But generally, people like to band together, help each other. So there's that opportunity for, short-term community, at least to get to know someone and interact. And then you move off to the next place and do it again.
Okay. So when you're RVing and you go to the grocery store, do you find yourself even more focused on making friends for a minute with the checker or people in the store? Or because to me, that's part of community. It's a short-term community, but it's a connection.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say personally, I don't really do that much. I mean, I'm, always polite and, ask them how they're doing and whatever, but not really, super engaged. Although that certainly is a way to, to have some interaction with community and build that.
Okay.
We also have online communities,
Of course.
which
yes,
has advantages and disadvantages. But it's another place where we can be engaged. And some of the groups I'm in are just really, really helpful, sharing notes about their RV and fixes they've made, or, hey, I encountered this problem, people telling how to fix. So that kind of community is really, really very helpful and easy to engage with.
I presume that those online forums also share the really wonderful or awful places that they've visited and say, hey,
yeah, there's groups that do that as well. Yeah.
I think so. That's an interesting use of community. I like that.
Yeah, and a lot of them have rules against complaining. So,
so you can't say, "Don't go to Kit's RV because Kit's mean."
Yeah, generally not so much. Although there is some sharing of, if there is a reason not to, that might be something that needs to be shared as well.
Well, I would think so. Of course, what you think of as mean, Corey may think of as really friendly. So I guess I can see a point in not allowing that. Unless
it's kind of a problem with social media that general, without social media, in general, if people have a bad experience, they will tell 8 to 10 people. If they have a good experience, they'll tell 2 to 3 people. So, as a business owner, right off the bat, you're down 3 to 1 on bad referrals versus good. But then when you throw social media in, and it's just so easy for people to have a knee-jerk reaction and go off and, blast everything onto social media. So I think that's why a lot of the groups, try to tone that back and go, yeah, let's not talk about all the negative things, but share the positive places we've been.
I like that. Anything else of attributes that you think of to support positive aging?
Yeah, one thing I'm a big fan of is being of service to others. I mean, I have an outlook that says life is lived the best when it's lived outside ourselves. And by that, I mean, it's not all focused on me, but it's focused on how can I help other people? And, that's how I design a business. How am I going to solve other people's problems? How am I going to remove their pain? And I think that's a very helpful attitude through life and it avoids a lot of the, in some ways, a lot of the negative stuff that brews when you get totally focused on yourself. So looking for ways to be of service to others, I think is a great thing to help your overall attitude and therefore your positive aging.
Well, and as you said, I'll paraphrase you, we have to start our foundation for positive aging today. Because aging is going to happen. If we build it on a positive foundation, it'll be a positive life. I think continuing education is also another important component of positive aging. I'm a fan of continuing to learn, be it a language, a game, about a country. Let's see, language, music. I mean, just reading books, taking classes. There are a lot of great organizations out there for seniors continuing their education. My dad loved Great Courses or something like that. He studied string theory at the age of 90. Like, really? I know people in their 30s who won't touch string theory. But I just loved that he said, I have no idea what they said, but I really enjoyed it. I'll watch it again. And he did.
I think I've
And my
done that with
dad
some
was not the
classes.
most positive people, but when it came to learning, he was. So
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Just that attitude of always wanting to be in learning mode and just, constantly adding new things. And it's good for the brain as well, because when you're learning new things, it's exercising the brain.
it's
Um,
keeping it plastic. I guess
Yeah.
as those neurons run around, they keep it heated up so it's malleable.
Yeah.
That's my story, Corey, and I'm sticking to it.
My stepfather did a bunch of great courses and they got expensive. I found out that through my library, I have access to those online
Ah,
free.
oh, cool.
So, yeah. Oh, and another general hint is get the library numbers of a lot of your friends to use their online library facilities, especially if they're not using them, because there's a lot of wonderful things out there and each place has different ones.
libraries can't access from other libraries.
The online thing stuff, well, there's one, and I'm blanking on what the name of it is, for online books and audiobooks. And Libby is the access name. And so all of the libraries that I know about have Libby, but they pay for different sections of it. So my local library doesn't have that much. The New York Public Library is wonderful. So is the Calgary Public Library. And if you're trying to track down a book that you want to read or listen to, you can put it on hold in several different places and see which one gets it first.
Okay. Do you have to release it in those other places then, or?
No, it will come up. If you're not nice, it will come up there also. And you can sometimes, even when you put it on hold in one place, it will tell you who else has it of the libraries that you have listed and what their waiting time is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Good tip. Thanks. Chris and Corey, do you have any ideas of what are some attributes that Don and I haven't brought up that you think would support positive aging?
I mean, what you talked about so far is usually what I think about. Probably the biggest one is just open-mindedness, which goes right hand in hand with continuing to learn, continuing to be open to new experiences, staying present, all of that. I feel like everything that encompasses everything. And then also, yeah, the physical activity is really important. I've read some studies, and I won't be able to think of them off the top of my head, but
Okay.
Physical exercise not only is important for your body, but also there's evidence that it maintains your neural structures and pathways as well. So staying active and keeping yourself moving can stave off things like Alzheimer's or dementia or other things like that. So it's equally important for your mind as well as your body.
Good point. And along with that, I've read that when you are walking, if you walk on an uneven surface, as opposed to like a concrete sidewalk or street or asphalt, but if it's gravel or grass, that makes your body, your eyes are having to pay attention, which goes into the brain, which goes into the core and down to the feet. So lots of stuff is being activated. So
Yeah, I've heard that too. Yeah.
we must read the same sources.
We must.
Excellent. So, yeah, thank you. I agree with you. And to augment your open-mindedness, I think that includes, and you kind of hinted at it, but I want to be more specific. It means you stay open to possibilities. So if I say, hey, you could live longer if you had more chocolate. Because I like chocolate.
I'm on board.
and Don, there are people who don't like chocolate. I don't understand, but I'm jealous. My sister's
He's
one
more
who's
for me.
well, good. But when you say, "Oh, that's interesting," I'll check that. I'll try it, as opposed to, "Nope, it can't be done," and that could mean can't live longer. And chocolate's not the magic wand. They're going to say Cheerios are the magic wand. But when you are given new ideas, it's the way you take them in that I think reflects your ability to pause agely or age positively. I'll speak, you translate.
Chris, did you have some additional thoughts on attributes that we haven't covered?
I don't know if someone already mentioned this, just keeping a positive attitude. And I know Kit mentioned it earlier, keeping a sense of humor, which I think is really important.
Chris, what does keeping a positive attitude mean to you?
Keeping a positive attitude, I guess, it can kind of go along with being open-minded, because a lot of times things happen that maybe you don't expect, or something that you don't like happens.
Yeah.
But if you look at the positive things from your life and say, well, I have this that's good, and this is good, and this is good, and keep that positive attitude.
So you're kind of saying practice gratitude.
Yeah.
Okay. So this has just happened to me. And then list off the things that you still do have.
Right.
The good things. Could it also include looking for the gift in that thing that happened to you?
I think it could.
Okay. Which
Looking at
exercises
problems
the
as
brain.
opportunities.
What's that, Don?
Looking at problems as opportunities.
I may have said this in a previous call. The Chinese character for challenge is the same as for opportunity. So it's how we look at life that makes or breaks us.
Thinking about positive attitude in John Acuff's book Soundtracks, he talks about the stories we tell ourselves become soundtracks. And so he talks about flipping, because they tend to run negative on their own. So learning to flip them into positive ones. And one of the positive soundtracks he has is things are always working out for me. And it's kind of funny when you start telling yourself things are always working out for me, how many times you notice things falling into place that you probably didn't notice before, but now you're open to it, you're looking for it. So just that flip of attitude to, I'm going to look for positive things in my life, and I'm going to make the conscious decision not to focus on the negatives and run down those rabbit trails, can make a big difference in positive attitude.
I like that. So none of you have brought up eating and how it affects your positive aging.
We're trying to avoid it.
You try to avoid eating?
Not trying to avoid talking about the need to eat well to have positive aging.
All right.
It's another one of those places that requires a commitment.
Damn it.
Yeah.
I have discovered several times, the first 2 or 3 experiences that weren't enough, so I keep testing it. Too much sugar makes me an angry person. That is not positive aging. So it doesn't mean quit eating sugar necessarily, but it does mean be in control, curb it, but get your protein, your fats, your vegetables. That supports your brain and all the sheathing of your muscles and blood vessels and nerves, all made of fat. So you've got to have fat and do the good ones, not the bad ones. Crisco is a bad fat. Olive oil is a good fat. Avocados are good fat. Gloria's thinking about something.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Crisco or lard are better or worse. Because how can you make a pie crust without?
Well, they're different creatures.
I know they're different creatures.
I'm
and
all for lard in the pie crust. Crisco is evil, should be banned from creation. Don, I told you I had opinions.
Yes. Well, a lot of the good fats you were talking about are the things that are high in, what is it, the amino fatty acids, which are known to be good for the brain and building the passageways in our brain. So,
Yeah.
And there's interesting research about those passageways that they don't fully form until we're like in our 50s.
Oh, really?
And so you actually get more creative when you get older.
Well, that's true.
And that sometimes those senior moments are because we're open to more inputs and processing more things, more so than a lack of or a deficiency. It's just, between here and there, I got 1,000 new inputs and I forgot the one I was focused on to begin with. But
Our Dewey Decimal Systems have not been updated to the information.
Yeah. And another interesting thing is that research shows that older people tend to solve problems with both sides of the brain, whereas in younger people, one side will dominate. And that's believed because we build those pathways better as we get older and connect both sides together. So, and I bring that up because, positive brain is positive aging, right? The thing that a lot of us fear is the mental decapacitation that comes with age. And, so it's good to know that it doesn't have to be, and that, there's things we can do to improve it.
So along with what you're saying, there are also two forms of intelligence. And Arthur Brooks talks about this in his book, Strength to Strength, if any of you like reading books. Gloria. When we're young, going through school in our early careers, we're using fluid intelligence. That's what helps us start businesses and learn all those things we need. And that starts cresting, declining as we hit our 40s, 50s. So when people lose their jobs at, let's say 50, they are feeling like, I'll never be hired. Nobody wants an old computer programmer, etc. But that's because they, and too many employers, aren't looking at the fluid intelligence, which starts ramping up in the mid 40s and keeps going. So that supports, it kind of goes hand in glove with what you're talking about, Don, that when we recognize our crystallized intelligence, which lets us access that wealth of information, then we can really be creative and be much more valuable to employers or ourselves. Hey, maybe that's when we start our second, third career, whatever. So I think that's good information. So if you eat healthfully, and I'm not going to tell you what that means. Blue zone diets are from Japan to Costa Rica, Greece, Italy, several here in California. They all have different diets. They aren't necessarily seafood oriented. And even if they are, they're different seafoods because they're different parts of the world. Some include grains, some don't. But the walking, the slow pace, all of that goes into, I think, a happier life. Any disagreements? I'm seeing a lot of head shaking going on.
A slower pace?
Yes, ma'am. Oh, Gloria's brain just exploded.
No, I have a husband who goes and goes and goes. I can't imagine him slowing down.
And that's okay. We each get to pick our own approaches to how we live. When you're going slower, one, you don't put as much on your plate, and you can notice the breeze under the trees and the babbling of the brook and the little ants train. And if you're going too fast, you missed it all. So, and there's not a right or a wrong. It's just, how do you want to live? And I think those little surprises are valuable.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when we're,
I'm sorry.
was going to say a lot of times I think when we're moving really fast, there's a stress component to it. Either we're stressed causes us to move fast, or the moving fast, is causing stress. But I think if you could leave out that component and move fast, you would probably be better off. But that slow lifestyle is also very appealing. I mean, that's one of the appeals of the people I talk to that want to RV full time, is that I want to get away from the rat race of the suburbs. I want to slow things down. I want to, absorb, want to live, absorb what's around me, not spend my whole day rushing to work and slaving at a desk and, rushing back in traffic and all of that. So there is a lot of appeal to slowing down and being more in touch with your surroundings.
Yeah. Are you raising your hand, Gloria, or showing off your pen? Speak.
Raising my hand.
All right.
Yeah. Part of this is not so much slowing down as thinning out what's not important.
That too.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. There's a mathematician called Erdős, and he basically spent all of his time thinking about math and looking at the sky or whatever he wanted to. And he spent almost zero energy on just the basic taking care of himself. He'd travel from one place to another, staying in people's houses, so he didn't have to worry about furniture, and food would be brought to him and so forth and so on. He just got his life down to what he wanted to do. And in a sense, Mark has managed to do that because I've picked up a bunch of the stuff that he now doesn't have to worry about.
Now I see what you're concerned about. So are you kind of asking, how are you going to build your positive aging when you've taken on all of his responsibilities? Not all, but the bulk.
We can talk about this offline.
Well, I
about
think it could
specifics.
be.
Okay.
I mean, don't go into great detail. How can you support your positive aging when you've piled too much on your plate or allowed it to be put on your plate?
Offload by farming out and by simplifying.
Okay. So delegate, simplify.
And didn't Steve Jobs say something like creativity is saying no to 1,000 things?
Warren Buffett also subscribes to say no. He only says yes to a few vital, important things. And I
his
think
calendar is like wide open. If you've ever seen photos of his calendar, it's like every page is blank.
Interesting. I've never seen that, but yeah. But that's
just because he wants that time to think. That's what he says. Well, you need to spend your day thinking, not running around from appointment to appointment.
Well, and maybe we could all make more money if we followed his advice.
Would it be useful to track how many times you say no to something in a day?
I think so. It's an interesting idea, Gloria. And you might as well track how many times you say yes. Really, I mean, just for a day or two, track. Yeah. You may not get anything done besides going tick, tick, tick. So yeah, that could be really valuable. So how do you think, have we covered enough to how can you build positive attitude and aging if you don't think you have it yet? I mean, Gloria, your question kind of touches on it. Chris and Corey, Don, do you guys have any thoughts of, do you see how you can build a life of positive aging, build a solid foundation?
I mean, I think what we've talked about represents to me the building blocks. Yeah.
Does it feel like something you can apply to your life starting today?
Mm-hmm. I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's broad, so it'd maybe take a little bit of thinking because these are broad concepts, not step-by-step instructions, but yeah.
And personalize them. Because if you like chocolate and your wife doesn't, then you get to eat hers and she has to find something else. Chris, how about you?
Well, I think if you just maybe even try one or two things at a time.
I'm all for that. Yeah.
And A lot of times when I do that, it doesn't have to be about, it seems like it's about just about anything. If I start with one or two things, then it kind of snowballs.
Yeah, you
Especially
build the
with things
momentum.
like this, because if you start taking a walk every day or start changing your diet or even just one thing, you feel the effects of that. And then a lot of times that can just snowball into other things.
Yeah. And if you do try and do too many things at once, you feel overwhelmed and it all falls away, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Or
Right.
it can. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If you take this whole list of things we talked about and go, I'm going to start doing all of these tomorrow, it's kind of overwhelming, right?
Don, I want you to
it's-
start today.
Right.
Don't
I'm
wait
going to
till
start
tomorrow.
eating better. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to sign up for some courses to learn more. I'm going to, join a club. I'm going to, and it's just like, one other thing that I'm sure contributes to positive aging that we haven't talked about yet is sleep.
Ah, yes. And you specifically want long hours, like 7 to 9 hours, but you want to make sure you get a deep sleep. That's real important.
Yeah.
Any of you have trouble sleeping?
I do. I was told about 3 months ago I had sleep apnea.
Oh, that'll keep you
At
from
one
sleeping.
point, I wasn't able to sleep at all. It didn't seem like I slept at all during the night.
I'm sure you didn't.
And
Have you on a
Once I-
CPAP?
yeah, once I got
Good.
that taken care of, it made a big difference.
It's better for your heart to breathe well too, by the way.
Yes, it is.
Imagine.
I know.
Funny thing like oxygen, right?
All right, so it seems like we've gotten a good foundation built for our positive aging. Don, how can we apply this to RVing?
I think it's important in everything we do in life, including thinking about RVing. So many people wait to start RVing on a grand scale or full-time RVing until they retire. And I also have a long list of people who did that and never got to go because of, health issues or deaths in the family or whatever. And so, one thing is if you're in that situation, you need to wait for that. Positive aging will help you enjoy it more when you get there. But even if you start out early, you still want to do these things and have, age positively because you still want to be able to do that mobile lifestyle. And I think all RVs have steps. So you have to be able to go up and down.
Elevator's not
so
going to
I
work
think
well.
it's, I would say it applies directly to the RV community and everywhere else.
I've heard people comment that they're not sure if they want to do RVing because they don't have control of who their neighbors are. And what if they don't like their neighbor? Will positive aging, to Chris's point, positive attitude, help you like the people you're camping next to, parked next to? Help
It
you
very
deal
well
with
could.
them?
It very well could, or at least be able to tolerate them. Or, if you decide that you can't tolerate it and you want to move somewhere else, doing that positively, and not griping about it, but striking out another adventure. So, I think there's lots of ways that it can affect your interaction with the people in the adjacent campsite.
And I love the idea of thinking of a move as the next adventure. It's not, oh, I've got to do all this stuff to move. It's, hey, let's go on another adventure. There's Chris's attitude again. Positive. Thanks, Chris. That was good. So, okay. And positive aging and longevity. I think I've probably pretty well made the point all along how I see positive aging, all those attributes supporting longevity. We are living longer, and making the most of it will make it a more pleasant experience. We'll be healthier, we'll be smarter, we'll have more adventures.
Yeah, I saw something the other day about longevity and adding years to the middle of your life, which I thought was an interesting point that, you want those years when you're still active and doing things, not, just tacked on to another 5 years of barely getting around.
When I was traveling in January, I asked a lot of people, and everybody I met knew, if you could take your vibrant health of now or time prior to now that you can think of and apply that through your years, how long would you want to live? I was dumbfounded by the number of people who said, oh, I can't live past 85 because that's when my folks died. Well, if you were healthy, would you want to? Oh, it can't be done. So there's that resistance that blocks us from our potential. And I think that holding on to the negative like that detracts from our life. I mean, if you're 40 years old and thinking, well, I only have another 45, one, you don't feel like you need to take care of yourself, but it's a negative thing to hold on to. But yeah, people often think that these extra years are just tacked on to the end. And we think of the end as when we're frail and decrepit. We're not feeling irrelevant. And that's what we want to avoid. No, it's let's live now. Every one of you has said, let's live now. And if you get to do that for an extra 30 years, I don't know how old any of us are going to be when we die, but living now is what it's all about, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So
Anything else?
you're muted, Gloria.
I have the problem not of having parents who died too early, though my father did, but of people that live on and on. My mother is about to have her 99th birthday.
Wow.
Her mother lived to be 102. My aunt is a few years behind my mother. Mimi is much more active and much more mentally whatever. But I'm looking at the having to live the good life longer because I'm afraid that I will be living longer.
All right, that's an oxymoron. I'm afraid I will live longer. That's not a positive attitude. You have a roadmap that you will live longer. And we don't need, I know some of the things you're afraid of, but you can use some of those things as role models of how you won't be. And so if I were in your shoes, I'd be going, oh, I get to dance more. I get more music. Now,
I was
that's
thinking,
the way to turn it around. Go ahead, Don.
you're kind of in that situation of saying, due to my genetics, there's a high probability I'm going to live longer. Therefore, it's important that I live it well, because I don't want to end up the last 15 years sitting around waiting to die.
Or 30 or 30 years. I mean,
Yeah.
are you actually, I like to say, I'm going to slide into home plate screaming.
Yep.
So
I think that's probably the way most of us want to be.
yeah. All right. Any other last thoughts before we sign off? I feel like we're winding down, but I don't want to shut anybody down.
Last call.
One way of thinking that I can live life well as long as I want to is telling myself that I'm going to be in control of being able to turn the switch off when it gets not fun. And I don't know how this relates to anything else for me and for others.
It doesn't really fit into positive aging, but unless Don can figure out a way.
I was
So,
anxiously awaiting your response.
well, so my first reaction, Gloria, is I think anticipating there will be a time you won't enjoy life detracts from the attitude of positive aging. Yes, stuff can happen that will make life unpleasant. But that, if a bus hits you and you're bedridden, it still doesn't have to be a negative life. There's still stuff, I would think, unless you're a vegetable. But you can't get up and do stuff, but you can still access books on tape. You can still access music and videos. And you can find meaning in life other ways. You could start reading to other people who can't read because of eyesight or age reasons. So I think that if you design your life to live well, that one way I've heard it is the longer you live, the quicker you die. That the better you live, the quicker the death. So it's just your body goes, okay, I'm done, which is my let's wake up dead concept.
Yeah.
But to start at our age and say, well, there may be a time I may not be happy. That's counter, in my opinion, to positive aging. Anybody want to chime in and argue with me? Share ideas?
I heard someone the other day talking about thinking positively, believing good things are going to come to you, expecting good things. And it's okay to have a contingency plan. So, live positively, expect to live long, expect to enjoy it. And if you have a long-term health policy, that's probably not a bad idea, So,
okay. Or a stash of pills if you want to do yourself in. I personally think there's bad juju in that, but that's my issue, nobody else's. Corey or Chris, you got something to share with Gloria about her question?
I think what came to mind when I was thinking about it is just like if you're living life now and things are going well and you're enjoying yourself and doing what you want to do and living like you want to live, and there's no indication right now that there's anything that could change that. And as long as you maintain what you're doing, I feel like that's being present that Don was talking about. And I think that's being present more in life, not just in nature, for example. But, I feel like the thought that you have to think ahead to think when to not live or, when you want to be done takes away from, well, right now I'm doing great. And for the foreseeable future, things are going to be great. And I don't see why they wouldn't be. So until something comes up where I have to figure out what I want to do, I'm just going to keep enjoying myself.
The only thing that came to my mind was keeping your options open. Something does happen that you weren't expecting or is unfortunate, or, maybe think about it in a different way. Think about what you can do to make things better. Maybe you can't do something that you wanted to do, but maybe there's something you haven't tried yet that you would really enjoy. And you wouldn't know that until you tried it.
I think it's about time to wind down. So I'm going to remind you that I'm Kit Cassingham. I'm a longevity coach. And my business is called Live in Focused Energy. We're already living longer. And my coaching helps you get the most out of those extra years with health, energy, and relevance. To get the full idea of what I'm about, download a copy of my Longevity Manifesto, and you can get that at my website, liveinfocusedenergy.com/manifesto. And it's my latest and greatest document.
And I'm Don Downs. I'm with RV Business Coach. Again, I help people create the life of their dreams, being able to live remotely and enjoy freedom and prosperity. I'd like to invite each of you to have a virtual coffee. It's just a one-on-one chance to get to know each other better. It's not a disguised sales call. If in the process of talking, we just conclude it might make sense to work together, we'll set up another call and explore that. But really just to, I'm a big believer in relational networking, and it's a great way to, increase your relationships and get to know more people. So if you want to do that, sign up at virtualcoffeewithdon.com, virtualcoffeewithdon.com, all one word. And so I hope to see you.